They hid a €50 fee on my kid's Christmas gift. One LinkedIn post flipped the room and forced a refund and a policy change. Tap like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell. A hidden fee runs into receipts, off-ramps, and real accountability. Christmas lived in the smell of pine and warehouse dust when a courier in brown knocked and pushed a thin slip that hissed ambush. €50 due for customs on a gift we had ordered from an Irish storefront. The hallway radiator ticked like a nervous metronome. Tape rasped under my thumb. My wife's breath came shallow. Is Santa still coming? My son asked from the stairs. Yes, I said. We paid so the box could cross our threshold. Yet the taste of metal stayed. I snapped a clear photo of the slip, scanned it, and slid both into a folder tab I labeled incidents so paper would not evaporate under holiday lights. In the order email, the seller's logo wore green, the address line read Ireland, and nowhere did a warning whisper customs or duties before checkout. I opened the site again, filled the basket with the same rebounder, and walked to the final page. Still no disclosure. Steam lifted from the kettle, the kitchen window fogged, a robin tapped the glass and flew. I wrote one clean line in my pocket notebook, receipts before speeches. Then I circled a phrase that felt like a compass. Right room. We will fix this without theater, I told my wife, and pressed the slip flat so the ink would not smear. I set the toy aside, printed the order confirmation, and laid it beside the slip so the contradiction could sit in daylight. My phone camera caught a second angle with the timestamp small as a fingerprint, and I tucked that image behind a note card labeled receipts. I opened a clean page called Practice Notes and wrote 3 verbs, identify, establish, present, so nerves would have a ladder. The bulb over the sink buzzed. Outside, a car door thudded. The hallway smelled like cardboard and cold. I picked up the phone and dialed the seller's number, pulse steady, voice ready, because the first door I would offer had to open before I reached for the next. The hold music tasted like old pennies and rain as I stared at the screen that still showed a clean total with no whisper of duties. A rep finally answered with a smile you could hear. How can I help today? I need a manager callback and a note on my account, I said. Your checkout never disclosed customs. Irish consumer rules require notice by the final page. She typed, keys clacking like distant hail, and promised a call within an hour. The hour dissolved. I rang again, logged the time in my notebook, and saved a screenshot of the final basket page where warning should live and did not. Steam from my mug curled into the kitchen light. The laptop fan purred. I clicked record on a voice memo so phrases would not be misremembered later. The second rep read a line about possible DDU fees and could not say where it lived on the Irish site. I wrote her wording down exactly and asked her to email it. Silence. I printed the order confirmation, folded it to the totals, and wrote in blue ink. No duties disclosed. My son will play with his gift either way, I said, softer now. But I need you to fix the checkout for the next parent. I understand, she said, voice small. I will escalate. Night leaned against the window. The hallway smelled like damp coats. My wife touched my shoulder and whispered, Do we stop? I stop when the right room sees what we see, I said, and taped the call log and the basket print to a sheet labeled timeline so the story could hold together under weight. The kettle clicked. The radiator hissed. The phone stayed dumb and dark. I set a clean envelope on the table and wrote the company address in careful letters, because tomorrow I would send an off-ramp in ink and see whether anyone on their side still valued a lawful yes. By morning my envelope smelled faintly of glue and resolve. I mailed the letter first class and followed with an email that carried the same offer in plain type. Refund the customs fee, acknowledge the error, and add a clear duty notice to check out within 1 week. An hour later a reply blinked in. A small voucher and a pasted script about possible DDU charges. I read the line twice and asked, Where does that appear on your Irish site? The agent could not say. I opened a fresh screen recording and walked the basket to the final button, narrating what the page did and did not disclose. The cursor looked like a small, polite flashlight sweeping bare shelves. I saved the clip as screen capture of checkout and printed a still frame with the empty warning space boxed in pen. Take the voucher, my wife suggested, weary. We could be done. I want the next parent warned before a courier knocks, I said. And I want our 50 back because the law promised we would not be ambushed. The agent offered a callback that never rang. I added the gap to the timeline and stapled the voucher email behind the letter so their script lived beside our proof. The house smelled like toast. The floor creaked. My son bounced a ball against the garden wall. Thump then echo then thump. I wrote 2 lines in practice. Identify the harm in 1 sentence. Teach the fix in 1 page. The minute hand moved, the radiator hissed, a gull cried. I printed the courier invoice and circled the fee, then laid it beside the order confirmation so silence could compare. In the email I added one sentence. Fix this quietly with a refund and a clear warning, or I carry the bundle to the people whose job is to care. The cursor blinked like a metronome while I waited for a human answer. I built the bundle like a mechanic lays out tools before a job. Slip photo, courier invoice, order email, final checkout still, call log, and a short memo in plain words that any tired eye could follow. At the top I wrote the off-ramp. Refund the customs fee in full, update checkout to disclose duties before payment, and confirm by email within 1 week. I addressed the letter to the company complaints team and copied the compliance address I found in their privacy notice. Because the right room sometimes sits behind a different door. My printer hummed and the paper cooled under my palm. I sealed the envelope and stuck a label that would make time behave. Is this war? My wife asked. No, I said. This is repair before revenge. I opened a tab labeled Practice and drafted a 1-page guide titled Receipts to Authority. Step 1, name the harm in 1 sentence. Step 2, point to where the rule lives. Step 3, show the proof without heat. Steam ghosted from the mug. The hall smelled like wet wool. My son's laugh dribbled in from the garden with the sound of football on brick. I set a countdown in my calendar for the end of the week and printed the reminder so even a future me could not pretend to forget. Then I called the courier and asked for a written breakdown of the charge, so the stack would not lean on hearsay. The agent promised a PDF and I wrote her name on the timeline. When I hung up, the room felt steady the way a car feels after a clean alignment, and the only thing left was whether the off-ramp would be used or ignored. I forwarded the same offer by email, attached the basket still and the slip scan, and saved a print that showed delivery. A tick from the radiator kept time while I taped a square on the letter marked Fair Choice so my thumb would feel it. Then I set the bundle on the table and listened for the courier email. Morning brought the courier email like a quiet receipt. Charges listed, route noted, nothing sneaky there. The problem still lived at checkout. The retailer stayed silent, but the product suddenly vanished from the storefront, as if absence could rewrite a promise. Search still showed the rebounder title. The click led to a blank. I took a screenshot of the dead page and a second from a cached copy that still displayed the item without any duty warning. The house smelled like toast and cold air. My son thumped the ball off the shed door and grinned at the bounce. My wife squeezed my hand and asked whether I would torch the brand online. I do not need a crowd, I said. I need the right room. I wrote a second, firmer letter that attached the before and after screenshots and repeated the off-ramp. Refund the customs fee, update checkout, confirm by email within 1 week. I added one more line for fairness. If you believe fees were disclosed, send a capture of the exact page and time. Then I called our bank and asked about a chargeback for hidden fees. The agent spoke in calm steps and logged the claim while I uploaded the slip and the order page. The bank would reach out to the seller. I wrote the case number on the timeline in neat letters. On a separate tab, I opened the Irish Consumer Center site and started a complaint that asked for the same 3 things plus a note about site design. Steam rose from my mug. The radiator ticked. The cursor blinked. I stopped and underlined a line in practice. Repair before revenge, receipts before speeches. Then I clicked submit for the bank and printed the complaint draft for the consumer office. Because my day had one more door to knock before the clock turned. I wrote the decision like a clean checklist and set it under the warm lamp. Step 1, send the formal complaint to the consumer authority. Step 2, push the bank dispute with a tidy bundle. Step 3, deliver one last off-ramp to the retailer's compliance inbox with a time box in plain words. The letter to the authority used 1 sentence per proof. Screenshot of checkout without duty notice. Courier slip that extracted €50. Order email that promised a final price. I attached the cached page that showed the product live without warning and a short timeline that paired each call with a silent hour. For the bank, I wrote a calm cover note and listed the rights in phrases a human could hold. Unfair commercial practice. Failure to disclose material costs. Remedy requested equals refund of the customs fee and correction of the checkout page. My last off-ramp email went to the compliance address and the data protection address because sometimes the person who reads privacy mail understands the weight of a promise better than the social team. Fix this quietly and refund by the end of next week, I wrote. Or I will let the regulators and the bank carry it the rest of the way. Ink dried. The room smelled like paper and tea. Somewhere outside a bin lid clacked in the wind. My wife asked, "Do we keep the rebounder if they repay?" "Of course," I said. "We already paid the customs bill, and fairness wears both shoes." I printed the consumer complaint confirmation with the reference line, clipped it under incidents, and set the clock reminder to nudge me on the promised day. Then the phone buzzed with a new email notification from a name I did not recognize and a subject line that simply said escalation, which felt like a door handle turning. Preparation tasted like printer heat. I built a single PDF that opened with a one-page index, then stacked each receipt in the order a Fairbrain prefers. Checkout still, courier slip, order email, screen capture notes, cached page, call log, and the off-ramp letters. I added the consumer authority reference at the top and the bank dispute case at the bottom so the rails were visible. A reply from the authority arrived with a case number and a short note that they would contact the trader. I printed it and tapped the corner flat. The bank portal showed our dispute as received. I uploaded one more note that spelled the fee as words, then saved the submission screen as a quiet artifact. "Are you going to call them again?" my wife asked. "I will answer, not chase," I said. "The right room is already awake." Midday, a compliance officer proposed a call. I wrote the agenda on a sticky square, refund customs, disclose duties, confirm process, and stuck it to my monitor so my temper would touch verbs first. I set the recorder on the desk and tested the red eye with a finger tap, then dialed in on the minute. Her voice sounded like wood. She apologized for delays and asked whether I would accept a voucher. "No," I said. "I will accept the lawful fix we already offered." The radiator sighed. The fan whirred. The cursor blinked. She asked for an hour to review the file. "You have it," I said. And when the line clicked quiet, the room felt like it was holding its breath on purpose. While I waited, I posted a registered letter that mirrored the email. The counter smelled like ink and rubber bands, and I kept the receipt. I also filed a small data request asking for any internal note about duties, because sometimes a log admits a truth before a person will. The flat settled. My son thumped the ball against the garden wall. Rain stitched the window. Then the phone flashed the same name again with a subject that read proposal, and I pressed accept. Execution arrived without fanfare. The compliance officer returned to the call and spoke in clear steps. They would refund the customs fee in full, issue a goodwill refund of the purchase price, and commit to adding a duty disclosure on the Irish checkout before payment. "I accept if the promises live on paper," I said. "Please send an email that lists each fix and a date." Minutes later, the settlement email landed. The subject read resolution, and the body listed the 3 remedies in tidy lines. I printed it and slid the page behind incidents with the courier slip and the cached page so the before lived right beside the after. For the record, I added, "If your team believes duties were disclosed, send a capture of the exact screen and time." No capture arrived. The bank portal chimed and marked the dispute as merchant accepted. The house smelled like tea and printer heat. My son's laugh leaked in from the garden. My wife traced the word refund with a fingertip and let her shoulders drop. I asked for a short note on site practice so the lesson would outlive the refund. The officer agreed to a training reminder for the web team and a quarterly review of checkout language. "Will you post about this?" my wife asked. "No," I said. "Our receipts already spoke in the room that matters." The page still looked bare, so I captured one more still of the missing warning and attached it to my reply with a nudge that read, "Please confirm when the disclosure goes live." I added a calendar reminder for the end of the week and taped the print under practice so my eye could not miss it. In the bank app, the refund lines showed as words in the ledger. I whispered them like a thank you to gravity, then reopened the site and waited for the warning to appear. Consequences clicked into place in quiet ways. 2 days later, the checkout page wore a line above the totals that read, "A duty may apply on shipments from the UK and will be collected by the courier." I captured the page and printed it large so the fix could sit beside the harm. The compliance officer sent a closing note that thanked us for patience and confirmed that the team had documented the change and scheduled a quarterly review of all pricing disclosures. I filed it under practice with a tiny smile I did not show to anyone. The consumer authority emailed to say the trader had engaged and the matter would be recorded as resolved with advice to monitor future design. I printed the message and underlined the phrase resolved. The bank dispute turned from accepted to closed. I printed the screen and slid it into incidents behind the courier slip, so the ledger could tell a straight story from front to back. My wife brewed strong tea that smelled like citrus. My son aimed his new rebounder at the garden wall and the ball came back true. The bounce thumped like a clock that had decided to keep good time. "Do you feel like you won?" she asked. "I feel like the room won," I said, "and the next parent will see the warning before a knock." I also received an apology call where the officer said the issue had sparked a review of other cross-border listings. I thanked her for choosing verbs over theater. On my calendar, I left the reminder to be sure the duty line survived a deploy. When it did, I took a final screenshot for the archive. I picked up a pen and hovered, because the last line still needed one more word. Moral in one line. Repair before revenge, receipts before speeches, right room before crowd. I am not proud of the stomach-knot days or the hours on hold. I am proud that a small family could make a big company keep its own word without a pile-on or a bonfire. The customs fee came back, the purchase price came back as a goodwill gesture, and the checkout now warns the next parent before a courier ever knocks. That is not theater, that is a system learning. If you ever face a hidden cost that arrives like a slap on your doorstep, write the harm in one sentence, gather 3 receipts, offer 1 honest off-ramp, and let the rooms with levers read the truth out loud. Keep a folder called Incidents, a tab called Practice, and a habit of writing amounts in words so your own math cannot be bent. The rebounder sits in our garden now, metal smelling faintly of rain and rubber. My son laughs when the ball flies back at him, and every bounce reminds me that accountability can be gentle and still land. My wife keeps the courier slip in a sleeve-marked lesson, and when friends ask how to fight fair, we point to the page where the duty line now lives. What would you have done in my place? And where do you draw the line between empathy and boundaries when a company forgets to warn you before a bill arrives? Tell me in the comments, and thank you for listening. Please subscribe, like, and ring the bell so you never miss the next story, and stay wonderful while you teach the world to choose verbs over villains. I will pin a tiny one-sheet behind practice that says dual checks before deploy, duty lines in plain English, and refunds that move as fast as charges. The page will smell like fresh toner and calm, and the habit will wait there for the next time a promise tries to slip through a gap we can close.